If she dies, call me later. My mother said this when I was dying in the ICU. Years later, she sued my grandmother for stealing me from her. My name is Sofia Mendez, and I'm 22 years old now. But this story begins when I was 19, on a December night that changed everything forever. I grew up in Santos, on the coast of Sao Paulo, in a large house overlooking the canal. My father, Ricardo Mendez, died when I was only 7 years old. It was a sudden heart attack, without warning, without a chance to say goodbye. One moment he was teaching me to ride a bicycle on the beach bike path, laughing at my fear of falling, and the next, he simply wasn't there anymore. After the funeral, most people disappeared. Except for my paternal grandmother, Dona Helena. She was a small woman with gray hair always tied in an impeccable bun, who had been a school principal for over 30 years. Even retired, she never stopped being a teacher. Every weekend, without fail, she would show up at our house in her old blue Beetle, bringing warm cheese bread and endless stories about her students. To me, she wasn't just Grandma Helena. She was my safe harbor. The only adult who never canceled, who never forgot, who never made me feel invisible. My mother, Juliana, was devastated by my father's death. 4 months, she barely left her room. I was 7 years old and found myself making my own lunch for school, choosing my own clothes, trying not to make noise so as not to bother her. It was Grandma Helena who, silently, took on the role of raising me during that first dark year. 2 years later, my mother met Fernando Almeida at a New Year's Eve party in Guarujá. Fernando owned a construction company, drove a gleaming black BMW, and wore watches that cost more than most people earn in a year. They got married 6 months later, in a luxurious beach ceremony that I barely remember. I was more worried about the tight shoes my mother had insisted I wear. A year and a half after the wedding, Isabella was born. Blonde, with light eyes like her father, she was the type of baby that makes everyone stop to look. The house instantly transformed. Suddenly, there was a full-time nanny, an entire room decorated by an interior designer, imported toys scattered everywhere. And me? I was transferred to the back room, the smallest in the house, which faced the neighbor's backyard. My drawings that were on the refrigerator were replaced by professional photos of Isabella. My swimming medals disappeared inside boxes in storage. My mother stopped calling me my love and started introducing me as my eldest daughter, as if I were just a biographical detail. At 14, I was practically a ghost in my own house. Fernando was never cruel to me, just indifferent. He paid for everything, school, clothes, food, but never looked into my eyes when he spoke to me. Isabella received new dresses every month. I wore school uniforms that had belonged to some distant cousin. Grandma Helena's apartment, 40 minutes from home in the central area of Santos, was the only place where I still felt like a real person. She lived in an old building, one of those with a grated elevator and creaking hardwood floors. Her apartment smelled like always fresh coffee and had bookshelves packed with books up to the ceiling. She kept lime popsicles in the freezer because she knew they were my favorite. She had my old bicycle stored in the service area. She never asked why I spent every free weekend there. When I turned 19, Christmas was approaching. Grandma Helena planned her traditional dinner. She did this every year, gathering cousins I barely knew, distant uncles, friends of decades. Her small living room would be crammed with people, the air full of laughter, music, the smell of roasting turkey. It was chaotic, noisy, and for a few hours I could pretend I was part of a real family. That year, she gave me a turquoise dress as an early present. "It matches your eyes," she said, adjusting the collar. I wore it to the dinner. For a few hours, surrounded by all that joy, I almost forgot how invisible I felt at home. But then near the dessert table, I heard my mother on the phone. She was laughing, talking excitedly about how she, Fernando, and Isabella were going to spend New Year's at an inn in Ingrid dos Reis. "Everything's already booked," she was saying. 5 days, just the three of us, it's going to be perfect. No one had told me. No one had invited me. I simply wasn't included in the plans. I stood there, with a piece of French toast cooling on my plate, feeling that familiar sensation of being a forgotten piece of furniture in a corner. I looked for Grandma Helena and made up that I had a headache, that I needed to leave early. She tried to argue, held my hand tightly, but I saw in her eyes that she knew. She always knew. With the money I had saved working at an English course during the year, I had bought a used motorcycle, an old Honda CG, but it worked. Grandma Helena was worried when I bought it, but understood that I needed that freedom. She made me promise I would always wear a helmet and drive carefully. "Be careful, my love," she said that night, hugging me tight at the door. "Send me a message when you get home." When I left her building, it was already getting dark. It was almost 9 p.m. on a Thursday in December. The sky was heavy, in that way that announces a storm. I should have waited, but I just wanted to go home, lock my bedroom door, and pretend none of it mattered. I took Via Ankita toward the beach. Traffic was heavy, everyone coming back from work or already starting the holiday routine. The first drops of rain began to fall when I was around São Vicente. Within minutes, it turned into a downpour. One of those summer rains that turns streets into rivers, that make you unable to see a foot ahead. I slowed down, but the asphalt was slippery. Cars were splashing water everywhere. My visor fogged up. I wiped it with my hand every few seconds, trying to see the lane marking. It was at the Santos entrance that it happened. A truck on a side road lost control in the rain. It skidded, crossed the median, and came straight in my direction. I saw the headlights, heard the horn, tried to swerve. I didn't have time. The impact threw my motorcycle meters away. I flew through the air, at least that's what they told me later, and landed on the side of the road. I felt the helmet hit the asphalt with a force that made my teeth rattle. Then I felt the pain. A pain so absurd it stole all the air from my lungs. And then, darkness. I wake up to sirens. Voices shouting. Red and blue lights flashing. Someone was cutting my jacket. Hands touching me, checking my pulse, saying words I couldn't quite understand. Miss, stay with me, okay? Don't close your eyes. What's your name? Miss, what's your name? I tried to answer, but only a moan came out. Everything hurt. My left leg was at a wrong angle. There was a taste of blood in my mouth. Someone put an oxygen mask on my face. The ambulance sped through the wet streets. Every pothole, every curve was torture. I could hear the paramedics talking quickly on the radio. Polytrauma. Possible open fracture. Blood pressure dropping. We need trauma. When we arrived at Santa Casa de Santos, there was already an entire team waiting. They transferred me to a stretcher, pushed me through corridors full of fluorescent light. Doors burst open. Someone was putting needles in my arms. A dark-haired doctor with her hair tied back leaned over me. Sophia? Sophia, can you hear me? You've been in a serious accident. You have multiple fractures and internal bleeding. We need to take you to surgery now, but we need your mother's authorization. Do you have her phone number? I tried to speak, but my tongue was heavy. A nurse took my cell phone from the bag with my belongings. The screen was cracked but still working. He found Mom in the contacts and pressed call. 3 rings. 4. 5. She answered. I could hear music in the background. Laughter. The characteristic noise of a fancy restaurant. Hello. My mother's voice sounded annoyed at being interrupted. The doctor approached the phone. Mrs. Almeida? This is Dr. Carvalho from Santa Casa de Santos. Your daughter Sophia has been in a serious motorcycle accident. She's in critical condition with multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and possible head trauma. We need to take her to emergency surgery in the next few minutes, or she may not survive. I need your verbal authorization now. Silence on the other end. Then an impatient sigh. Look, doctor, we're in the middle of an important dinner. It's my daughter Isabella's birthday. I can't just run off now because of. She's 19 years old. She's an adult. Can't she sign herself? The doctor pressed her lips into a thin line. Ma'am, your daughter is unconscious. She may not make it through the night without. Okay. My mother cut her off. I understand. Look, do what you need to do. If something happens, you call me later. We're right in the middle of the party here, and I'm not going to ruin Isabella's birthday because of this. Call my mother-in-law, Helena. She handles these things. And hung up. The silence in the trauma room was deafening. The doctor stared at the phone as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. One of the nurses muttered a curse word under his breath. Another shook his head, looking disgusted. Someone call this Helena, the doctor said, her voice tense. Now. The nurse dialed Grandma Helena's number, which was saved as Grandma Redheart, on my phone. She answered on the first ring. Sophia? My love, did you get home yet? I was worried about this rain. Mrs. Helena? The nurse interrupted gently. This is Nurse Carlos from Santa Casa de Santos. Sophia has been in a serious accident on Via Ankita. She's in critical condition and needs emergency surgery. Her mother said to call you. There was a brief silence, then the sound of something falling. I later learned it was the cup of tea she was holding. I'm already on my way. Do whatever you need to do. I'll sign everything when I get there. Don't let my girl die. Please. Her voice was broken but firm. In the background, I could hear the sound of keys, the door slamming, the old Beetle starting. Will you be able to get here safely in this rain? The nurse asked, concerned. I was a school principal for 32 years, son. I've driven in this city in all kinds of weather. I'll be there in 15 minutes. And hung up. Dr. Carvalho looked at the team. Let's get the room ready. As soon as she gets here and signs, we go up. But she leaned close to me, held my hand. Sophia, can you hear me? Your grandmother is coming. She'll be here soon. You just need to hang on, okay? Stay with me. I tried to squeeze her hand back, but I could barely feel my fingers. The room started to spin. The voices grew distant, as if I were underwater. Grandma Helena made those 15 minutes in 11. She came through the emergency room door soaked to the bone, with her hair loose and dripping water. I had never seen her hair loose before. She was still wearing a kitchen apron under her coat. She must have been preparing something when she got the call. A nurse tried to stop her to identify herself, but Grandma Helena simply said, "My granddaughter is dying," in a tone that accepted no arguments and kept walking. The security guard, a large man who must have been about 40, looked at her and simply moved aside. There was something about her manner, that principal's posture that had commanded entire schools for decades, that made people instinctively obey. Dr. Carvalho met Grandma Helena in the hallway. "Are you the grandmother?" "I am. Helena Mendez." "Where do I sign?" They put a clipboard in her hand with at least 6 forms. Grandma Helena signed them all without reading a single line, her hand shaking so much the pen almost slipped from her fingers. "Save my granddaughter. That's all that matters. Would you like to see her before we go up?" Grandma Helena nodded, unable to speak. They took her to where I was. My face must have looked horrible because I saw her legs wobble when she saw me. She held onto the stretcher to keep from falling. She leaned in close, touched my face with cold fingers. "Sophia, my love, it's Grandma. I'm here. You're going to be okay, you hear? Everything's going to be okay. I promise." Her voice was broken, choked. "You're strong. You're a fighter. Just like your father. Don't give up on me, okay? Don't give up." She kissed my forehead and quickly left as they began pushing me toward the elevator. I could hear her sobbing in the hallway as the doors closed. The surgery lasted 7 hours. Grandma Helena sat the entire time on a hard plastic chair in the surgical center waiting room. Nurses offered coffee. She didn't drink it. They offered a blanket because she was still wet and shivering. She didn't accept it. She just stayed there, hands clasped in her lap, lips moving in silent prayers. Every now and then she looked at the clock on the wall, and then at the double doors through which I had been taken. At 4:37 in the morning, Dr. Carvalho finally came out, still in surgical clothes, mask pulled down to her chin. Grandma Helena got up so fast that the chair toppled backward with a crash. "She survived," the doctor said, and Grandma Helena collapsed back into the chair, her hands over her face. "But it was serious. Very serious. We fractured 3 ribs during resuscitation. Her left leg had an open fracture. We managed to fix it with plates and screws, but it will be a long recovery process. She had a laceration in her liver that was sutured. The spleen had to be removed. There was bleeding around the brain that we drained, but she's still in an induced coma. We're going to keep her sedated for the next few days to give her body time to start healing." Grandma Helena wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Will she be okay?" The doctor hesitated. "The next 72 hours are critical. She's young, which helps. But I'm not going to lie to you. It was very serious. She came in here nearly dying. If you had taken 5 more minutes to sign those papers." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Grandma Helena closed her eyes. "Can I see her?" "In a few hours, when she's stabilized in the ICU. You should go home, take a shower, rest." "I'm not going anywhere," Grandma Helena cut in with that tone I knew so well. "You can send me away, you can call security, but I'll stay in that parking lot if I have to. I'm not leaving here without knowing my granddaughter is okay." The doctor studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "There's a couch in the ICU waiting room. I'll ask them to let you in as soon as Sophia is settled in her room." 3 hours later, Grandma Helena was authorized to enter. The ICU was a scary place. Lights always on, alarms constantly ringing, the hiss of ventilators, the beep of heart monitors. Each bed had glass walls, no privacy at all. I was in bed 7. Tubes coming out of everywhere. Throat, arms, chest. Drains with blood. The ventilator rising and falling, keeping my lungs working. My face was swollen and purple. I had stitches on my forehead where my head had hit the asphalt, even with the helmet. Grandma Helena approached slowly, as if afraid she'd break me just by getting close. She pulled the green plastic chair close to the bed and sat down, taking my hand carefully so as not to disconnect the foreneedle. "Hi, my love," she whispered. "Grandma's here. I'm not going anywhere, okay? You can rest. You can heal. I'll be right here. And she stayed. The days in the ICU blended into a fog of pain, sedation, and the constant fear I could feel even while sleeping. But every time I fought to rise to the surface of consciousness, even if just for seconds, I heard her voice. Always there. Always close. She told stories. About when I was born and how my father cried with joy. About how I was stubborn from babyhood, refusing bottles and only accepting her arms. She read aloud. She had brought from home a worn copy of Clarice Lispector that she knew I loved. She sang softly the lullabies she sang when I was little. The nurses tried to send her home several times. You need to rest. You need to eat properly. Grandma Helena ate the sandwiches they brought from the hospital cafeteria. She slept in that uncomfortable chair, her head resting on the edge of my bed, her hand always holding mine. She went to the ICU bathroom to wash herself with hospital soap. One of the nurses moved, brought a change of clothes from home for her. On the fourth day, she was dozing when she heard my mother in the hallway. Juliana had finally shown up. It was almost 4 p.m. on a Tuesday. She was impeccable, blow-dried hair, perfect makeup, beige linen dress, high heels. She looked like she was going to lunch at the club, not visiting her daughter in the ICU. I came to see Sophia, she told the receptionist nurse, her tone bored. The nurse, Carla, who had grown fond of Grandma Helena, looked at her with an icy expression. Are you the mother? I am. The one who didn't want to leave dinner when they called saying your daughter was dying? The silence was heavy. My mother turned red. There was a misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding. It's recorded on the call. You said you weren't going to ruin the party. Carla pointed to the ICU. Your daughter came in here with a 30% chance of surviving. She went through 7 hours of surgery. She's been in an induced coma for 4 days. And you're showing up now. I was busy. Carla repeated, incredulous. Your mother hasn't left here for a single minute. She slept in that chair every day. Hasn't taken a shower at home once. Eats what we bring her. And you were busy. My mother raised her chin, defensive. I have another daughter who needs me too. Isabella had her party ruined because of this whole situation. She's traumatized. That's when Grandma Helena appeared in the ICU doorway. She had aged 10 years in those 4 days. Deep dark circles, disheveled gray hair, wrinkled clothes. But her eyes, when they landed on my mother, were on fire. You, she said, her voice low and dangerous. You have the nerve to show up here now? Mother, I can explain. Explain. Grandma Helena took a step forward. She was at least 6 inches shorter than my mother, but in that moment she seemed huge. Explain how you said to let your daughter die because you were in the middle of a party? Explain how you didn't come see if she was alive for 4 days. You don't understand how hard it was. Hard. Grandma Helena's voice rose an octave. You want to talk to me about hard? I held that girl's hand while she fought to breathe. I watched her have 3 cardiac arrests. I cleaned up the blood when the drains overflowed. Where were you? Oh yes. Busy with your other daughter who was traumatized because the party was ruined. My mother was pale now. Mother, please, if people are watching. Let them watch. Grandma Helena didn't lower her voice. Let everyone here know what kind of mother you are. Your daughter is in there, full of tubes, barely managing to stay alive, and you're worried about what people will think. I came now, didn't I? I'm here. You don't have the right to be here. Grandma Helena's voice became deadly calm. You lost that right when you hung up that phone. You're not welcome. Leave. She's my daughter. Daughter? Grandma Helena gave a bitter laugh. You stopped being her mother a long time ago, Juliana. I just didn't want to see it. But that phone call, that showed who you really are. And I'm not going to let you get near her now just to ease your conscience. You can't stop me from... Yes, I can. I'm her legal guardian now. I signed all the papers. I'm the one making the medical decisions. And I'm making this one, you're not going in there. You can leave. My mother looked at Carla, as if expecting support. The nurse simply crossed her arms and remained silent. My mother looked around. Other nurses, doctors, visitors had stopped to watch the scene. This isn't over, she finally said, her voice shaking. I'm going to talk to my lawyer. You can't. Talk to whoever you want. But while your daughter is fighting for her life, you don't get near her. Now leave. My mother stood there for a few more seconds, then spun on her heels and left, her expensive purse swinging on her shoulder. Grandma Helena stood watching until she disappeared down the corridor. Then her legs weakened. Carla ran to support her. Donna Helena, you need to sit. I'm fine, Grandma Helena murmured, but let Carla guide her back to the chair beside my bed. She sat down heavily, took my hand again, and finally let the tears fall. I'm fine. I just need to stay close to her. The next day, they began reducing my sedation. It was a gradual process. They wanted to see if I could breathe on my own, if there would be any permanent neurological damage. Grandma Helena didn't leave my side during the entire process. She held my hand, talked to me constantly. Come on, my love. I know you can do it. Come back to me. Please come back. It was on the 6th day that my eyes finally opened. Everything was blurry. Lights too bright. Undefined shapes moving around me. There was something in my throat, choking me, and I tried to pull it out with my hands, but they were too heavy to move. Sophia. Sophia, don't move, my love. There's a tube helping you breathe. Calm down, calm down. Grandma Helena's voice sounded distant, but enough to make me stop. Nurse. She woke up. She's awake. People rushed toward me. Hands holding me, flashlights being shown in my eyes. I blinked, trying to focus, trying to understand where I was and why everything hurt so much. Sophia, squeeze my hand if you can hear me. It was Dr. Carvalho's voice. I squeezed. Weak, but I squeezed. Great. Very good. You're in the hospital. You were in an accident, but you're safe now. We're going to take this tube out of your throat, okay? It's going to be uncomfortable, but it'll be over quickly. On the count of 3, you're going to cough really hard. 1, 2, 3. The sensation of the tube being pulled out was horrible, like they were ripping my lung out through my mouth. I coughed violently, gagged, tried to pull in air. My throat was raw. Breathe slowly. That's it. Slowly. Someone put an oxygen mask on my face. The fresh air helped. When my vision finally started to clear, I saw Grandma Helena. She was standing beside the bed, tears streaming down her face, but smiling. Smiling as if the sun had just risen after years of darkness. Hi, my love, she whispered, holding my hand with both of hers. Welcome back. I tried to speak, but only a hoarse, painful sound came out. Don't try to talk yet. Your throat will be sore because of the tube. Just stay here with me. You're okay. Everything's going to be okay now. In the following days, pieces of my memory started coming back. The accident. The rain. The truck. My mother's phone call. I remembered everything. When I tried to ask about her, Grandma Helena just squeezed my hand and said, "Don't worry about that now. Just focus on getting better." But I saw the anger she was trying to hide. I saw the hurt in her eyes every time the subject came close to my mother. I stayed 5 more days in the ICU before being transferred to a regular room. Grandma Helena stayed with me the whole time. The nurses had given up trying to send her away. They brought extra pillows, blankets, food. Carla brought a new toothbrush and hygiene products. Another nurse, Denise, brought old magazines for her to read. Your grandmother is special, Denise told me one day while checking my vital signs. In 15 years working here, I've never seen anyone stay this long, not even leave to get fresh air. You're lucky. I knew I was lucky, but there was a hole in my chest every time I looked at the chair beside the bed and thought about who should be there, but wasn't. In the 2nd week, physical therapy began. My left leg was immobilized from hip to ankle with metal plates and screws. Learning to sit up in bed was agony. Trying to stand with support was even worse. This hurts too much. I cried in the first session, trembling with pain and effort. I know, my love, Grandma Helena said from the other side of the room, where the physical therapists had asked her to stay. But you can do it. You're strong. Just a little more. It took 3 days until I could take 2 steps with the walker. When I finally did it, Grandma Helena applauded as if I had won a marathon. It was during the 3rd week that I received an unexpected visit. I was alone in the room. Grandma Helena had finally agreed to go to the apartment to take a real shower and get clean clothes, after Carla promised she'd keep an eye on me. The door opened and my mother walked in. She looked smaller than I remembered. Nervous. There were dark spots under her eyes that makeup didn't completely hide. She stood near the door, as if unsure whether she should approach. "Hi, Sophia," she said, her voice low. I didn't respond. I just looked at her, waiting. I wanted to see how you are. She took a few hesitant steps toward the bed. "It looks like you're getting better." Silence. "Sophia, I know you must be upset with me, but you need to understand it was a very difficult moment. It was your sister's birthday and..." "Leave." My voice came out hoarse but firm. She blinked, surprised. "What?" "Get out of here. Now." "Sophia, please let me explain." "There's nothing to explain." Each word hurt in my still injured throat, but I continued. "You said to let me die. You were more worried about a party than your daughter's life. There's no explanation that changes that. I didn't mean it that way. I was in shock. I didn't know how serious it was. They told you I could die. They told you I needed emergency surgery. And you said you weren't going to leave the party. Tears began streaming down my face, but I didn't stop. How many times have you come to see me since I woke up? 0. How many times has Grandma Helena left my side? 0. You think I don't know the difference? Your grandmother wouldn't let me in. She protected you from seeing what you caused. My voice rose, and I immediately felt a sharp pain in my chest where my ribs were broken. But I didn't care. You want to know what it was like? I died 3 times on that operating table. 3 times my heart stopped and they had to bring me back. And while that was happening, you were eating cake with Isabella. My mother was crying now, her makeup running. Sophia, please. At least have the decency not to pretend you care now. You made your choice that night. I understood perfectly what my place is in your life. So stop pretending you're my mother and leave. You can't talk to me like that. I'm your mother. No. The word came out with a finality that surprised even me. You're not. A real mother doesn't do what you did. A real mother doesn't abandon her daughter to die because there's a party. You gave birth to me. That's all. But you were never my mother. Not really. That's when Grandma Helena came back. She had clearly run through the corridors when someone told her my mother was there. She came in like a hurricane, her hair still wet from the shower, not even having finished buttoning her coat. I told you not to get near her, Grandma Helena hissed. She's my daughter. I have a right. You have no rights. Grandma Helena planted herself between my mother and my bed, like a shield. You gave up any rights when you said to let her die. Now get out of here before I call security. You can't stop me from seeing my own. Yes, I can. And I will. Carla, Grandma Helena shouted toward the hallway. Call security. My mother looked from Grandma Helena to me, then back to her. You're going to regret this. I'm going to talk to my lawyer. I'm going to. Do whatever you want, Juliana, Grandma Helena said, her voice tired now. But as long as I'm breathing, you're not getting near this girl again. My mother left, slamming the door. Grandma Helena stood still for a moment, breathing deeply, then turned to me. Her face crumbled when she saw my tears. Oh, my love, I'm sorry. I only left for an hour. I shouldn't have. It's not your fault, I said, wiping my face with the back of my hand. Grandma, did she really say that? On the phone? That she wasn't going to leave the party. Grandma Helena came to sit on the bed beside me, carefully so as not to hurt me. She took my hand. She did. And it wasn't just that. When the doctor said you could die, she said. She said to call when it was over, that she wasn't going to drive downtown to sign papers in the middle of a spa treatment. I closed my eyes. Hearing that confirmed out loud was worse than I had imagined. But you know what that means? Grandma Helena gently lifted my chin so I would look at her. It means you finally saw the truth. And the truth hurts, but it also sets you free. You don't have to keep waiting for her to be the mother you deserve. Because she never will be. And that's not your fault, my love. It never was. I let my head fall on her shoulder and cried. I cried for the mother I never had. For the childhood that was stolen. For the girl who always felt invisible in her own house. I cried for everything. And Grandma Helena held me, stroked my hair, and let me cry it all out. You have me, she whispered. You always have. And you always will. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. 2 weeks later, I was discharged from the hospital. 31 days after the accident, I would finally leave that place. But I wouldn't go to the house in Santos. I wouldn't return to that back room. To that house where I was invisible. Grandma Helena had prepared everything. She transformed her old office into a room for me. She painted the walls a soft light blue, like the sky. She hung white curtains that let the sun in. She bought a new bed, soft and comfortable. On the wall, she put up photos. Me and my father, me and her over the years. Me alone in happy moments I didn't even remember had been photographed. Welcome home, my love, she said when she helped me into the apartment, me limping with crutches. And for the first time in a long time, I really felt like I was coming home. Recovery was slow and painful. 3 times a week, Grandma Helena took me to physical therapy sessions. She sat in the waiting room with a book, but I knew she didn't read a single line. She just stayed there, waiting in case I needed her. Learning to walk again was humiliating. I was 19 years old and needed a walker like a 90-year-old woman. I fell several times. I cried from frustration even more times. But Grandma Helena was always there. One more step, she would say. Just one more. You can do it. And I could. For her, I could always take one more step. At night, when the pain became too unbearable to sleep, she would sit on the edge of my bed and hold my hand. Sometimes she read aloud. Sometimes she just sang softly. And sometimes we stayed in silence, just existing there together, and that was enough. My phone rang sometimes. Unknown numbers. I never answered. Once, Fernando called. He left a message saying he was worried, that he wanted to know how I was. I deleted it without finishing listening. Too late for that. Isabella sent a message 2 weeks after my discharge. Hi, Sophia. Mom is very sad. She cries every night. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Sorry. I read the message 3 times and then blocked the number. Some bridges burn and there's no way to rebuild them. 2 months after hospital discharge, Grandma Helena received a registered letter. It was from a high-end law firm in Sao Paulo. My mother was suing for custody back and for defamation, claiming that Grandma Helena had manipulated the situation and poisoned my mind against her. Grandma Helena read the letter in silence at the kitchen table while I had coffee. When she finished, she carefully folded the paper and put it back in the envelope. Don't worry about this, she said, but I saw the concern in her eyes. Grandma, can she force you to give me back? The question came out in a whisper. The mere idea filled me with panic. You're 19 years old, my love. No one can force you to do anything. But she's going to try to cause trouble. We're going to need a lawyer. It was Carla, the ICU nurse, who referred us to someone. My cousin is a lawyer specializing in family law. And she hates this type of case. Mothers who abandon their children and then come back wanting to play the victim. Call her. Dr. Patricia Rocha was about 45 years old, with short graying hair and a look that could make a liar confess in seconds. She came to Grandma Helena's apartment one March afternoon with a folder full of documents. Let's make one thing clear, she said after hearing the whole story. Your mother has no case. You're an adult. The decisions are yours. But she's going to try to intimidate you. She's going to try to make it look like you're being manipulated. We need to get ahead of this. How? I asked. Patricia smiled. It was a sharp, predatory smile. We're going to sue first. Abandonment of a dependent, emotional neglect, moral damages. And we're going to make it all public. I have some contacts in the press. I don't know if I want to expose all of this, I began. Sophia, Patricia leaned forward. Your mother is counting on you staying quiet. That you'll accept being painted as the ungrateful daughter who abandoned her poor mother. If you stay silent, she controls the narrative. But if you speak first, with the truth, with evidence, then the game changes. Grandma Helena took my hand. The decision is yours, my love. I support you either way. I spent 3 days thinking. 3 days remembering every humiliation, every time I was ignored, every moment I felt invisible. And then I remembered that phone call. My mother's voice saying she wasn't going to leave the party. I called Patricia. File the lawsuit. I want everyone to know the truth. The following weeks were intense. Patricia got copies of everything, the recording of the phone call, which the hospital had kept for legal reasons, the medical records showing my critical condition, written statements from Dr. Carvalho and several nurses, even the messages that Isabella had sent to her friends with the photo of my bloodied face. This here is gold, Patricia said when she saw the messages. It shows a pattern of emotional neglect and even cruelty. It's not just one bad moment. It's who they are. The lawsuit was filed on a Monday morning. By Tuesday, it was on local news. By Wednesday, it had gone viral on social media. Mother refuses TO authorized daughter's emergency surgery, so as not TO leave party. That was the headline everywhere. The recording of the phone call leaked. Patricia swore it wasn't her, but she had a smile on her face when she said it. Within 48 hours, it had millions of views. The comments were brutal. What kind of mother does this? The girl was dying and she didn't want to leave a party? I hope she never has peace again in her life. My mother tried to control the damage. She posted a video crying, saying she had been misunderstood, that she was in shock, that she loved me very much. But someone found her old Instagram posts, hundreds of photos of Isabella, parties, trips, and almost nothing of me. When there was, I was always in the background, out of focus, clearly not the focus of the photo. People started putting the pieces together. It hadn't been just that one day. It had been years of neglect. Fernando gave an interview trying to distance himself. I was already divorcing her. I always treated Sophia like my daughter. But then photos appeared of him on luxury vacations with my mother and Isabella, trips I never participated in. People who knew us started talking too. Neighbors. Parents of Isabella's classmates. Sophia always seemed so sad. We'd see her alone while the whole family went out together. Once her mother forgot to pick her up from school. The girl waited for 3 hours in the rain. For Isabella's 15th birthday, they threw a huge party. Sophia? I never saw them do anything for her. The narrative built itself. And there was nothing my mother could do to stop it. Isabella deleted all her social media after they hacked her account and exposed the messages she had sent about me to her friends. It wasn't just the hospital photos. It was years of cruel messages. Thank God Sophia isn't traveling with us, she'd ruin the photos. My mom only remembers she has another daughter when she needs someone to blame. Sophia is so dramatic, always wanting attention. The oldest messages were from when I was 15 and she was 12. A child being taught by her mother to despise her own sister. The private school where Isabella studied asked her to withdraw for the good of the school environment. Fernando lost 2 big contracts. Companies didn't want to be associated with the story. My mother was also fired from her job at the market. Image problem, they said. They had to move again, to an even smaller place. Farther away. The apartment they had gotten on Savannah Highway was repossessed for lack of payment. Meanwhile, my life was finally starting to make sense. Physical therapy worked. 6 months after the accident, I was walking normally. I had a slight scar on my forehead and sometimes my leg throbbed when it was going to rain. But I was whole. I was alive. I went back to studying. Grandma Helena enrolled me in a preparatory course for college entrance exams. I wanted psychology. After everything I'd been through, I wanted to help other people who felt invisible in their own families. Mornings had a good routine. Grandma Helena woke up early and made coffee. We drank it together at the little kitchen table, looking out the window at the street waking up. She told me about her plans for the day. She was going to the market, going to meet her friends from the church group, going to the senior gym. I told her about my studies. I'm proud of you, she always said. And I believed her. In the afternoon I studied. At night we cooked together. Grandma Helena taught me how to make the family pasta, the secret sauce her grandmother had taught her. She taught me how to make bread, cake, how to season fish the right way. The kitchen was full of steam, good smells, laughter. On weekends we went to the beach. I was scared at first. Scared of riding in a car, scared of the road, scared that it would all happen again. But Grandma Helena went slowly, let me choose the music, talked to me the whole way. And gradually, the fear diminished. We sat in the sand with our feet in the water. She brought a book but never read it. She just looked at the sea, and I knew she was thinking about everything we had almost lost. You know what I think, she said once. I think God saved you because your work here isn't finished. You're going to help a lot of people, Sophia. You're going to be for someone what I was for you. You're everything to me, Grandma. And you're everything to me, my love. You always have been. Since the day you were born. The lawsuit proceeded. Patricia was relentless. She brought witness after witness. Dr. Carvalho testified about the critical state I arrived in and about my mother's reaction. Carla and other nurses talked about the weeks in the ICU, about how Grandma Helena never left my side while my mother didn't even show up. They even got the security guard who was at the emergency room door that night. He described how Grandma Helena arrived soaked, desperate, how she signed everything without reading. I've never seen a mother's love like that, he said. Too bad she wasn't even the biological mother. My old teachers testified. They talked about school meetings where only Grandma Helena showed up. About events where I was alone while other children had parents. About how Grandma Helena was always my reference. They brought in a psychologist who specialized in family trauma. He analyzed everything, the messages, the recording, my history. His diagnosis was clear, chronic emotional neglect that culminated in abandonment at a moment of life-threatening risk. The psychological damage is serious and lasting. My mother's lawyer tried to argue that she was in shock, that she hadn't understood the severity. But Patricia destroyed that in seconds. The doctor said verbatim, "Your daughter may not survive the next hour." Where's the ambiguity in that? And even if she was in shock, where was she in the following days? In the following weeks? Her daughter was in a coma and she didn't show up once. That's not shock. That's choice. They tried to say I was an adult and therefore abandonment of a dependent didn't apply. Patricia had an answer for that too. At the time of the incident, the victim was incapacitated, in critical condition, unconscious, dependent on third-party decisions to survive. The mother, as legal guardian at that moment, had a duty to act. She chose not to act, and that almost cost her daughter's life. The trial lasted 3 days. On the last day, the judge asked if I wanted to speak. I got up, limping slightly to the microphone. Grandma Helena was in the front row, hands clasped, eyes red but dry. She had cried enough. Now was the time for strength. I looked at my mother. She was thin, pale, very different from the confident woman I knew. Isabella was beside her, head down. Fernando hadn't come. I'm not going to stand here and pretend my life was hell, I began, my voice firm. It wasn't. I had a grandmother who loved me. I had a father who loved me while he was alive. I had a roof, food, school. But what I didn't have was a mother. My mother sobbed. I didn't stop. Not having a mother when she's dead is one thing. You miss her, you suffer, but you understand. She had no choice. But not having a mother when she's alive, when she's there in the same house as you, when she chooses every day to look through you as if you were transparent. That's different. That breaks you inside in a way no surgery can fix. That night at the hospital wasn't an isolated moment. It was just the last straw. It was confirmation of what I always knew but never wanted to accept. I didn't matter. I never mattered. And when it came time to choose between me and a party, she chose the party. When it came time to choose between saving me and not being bothered, she chose not to be bothered. I died 3 times on that operating table. And every time my heart stopped, I'm sure it wasn't my mother I thought of. It was my grandmother. Because she's the one who was always there. She's the one who held my hand when I was learning to walk at 2 years old, and who held my hand when I had to learn to walk again at 19. I looked at Grandma Helena. She was crying now, silently, wiping tears with a crumpled tissue. Family isn't blood. Family is choice. And my mother showed me in the clearest way possible what her choice was. So now I make mine. I choose the woman who didn't sleep for 20 days because she didn't want to leave me alone. I choose the woman who transformed her office into a room for me. I choose the woman who taught me that I have value, even when everyone around me said otherwise. I don't want revenge. I don't want my mother to suffer. But I want justice. I want it on record that what she did was wrong. That other children who feel invisible see this story and know it's not their fault. That it's okay to choose who really loves you. And I want my grandmother to be officially recognized as what she always was, my real mother. I sat down. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Even the judge had tears in his eyes. The sentence came 2 weeks later. The judge was relentless. In 30 years of career, I have rarely seen a case of emotional neglect so clear and documented. The recording of the phone call alone would be sufficient. But when we add years of emotional abandonment, differential treatment between daughters, consistent choices that put the victim in the background, the picture is undeniable. Juliana Almeida is convicted of abandonment of a dependent and emotional neglect. The sentence is 2 years in prison, converted to community service and a fine. In addition, she is prohibited from approaching the victim indefinitely. Isabella Almeida, being a minor at the time of the facts but having actively contributed to the victim's suffering, will perform mandatory community service and psychological counseling. As for moral damages, the defendant will pay compensation in the amount of 500,000 Brazilian reais raised to the victim, an amount to be deposited in a court account and released upon proof of use for education and necessary treatments. Finally, I grant the adoption request. Helena Mendez is officially recognized as the legal guardian of Sofia Mendez, with all rights and duties inherent to filiation. The gavel struck. My mother collapsed in tears. Isabella held her, crying too. But I didn't feel sorry. I felt relief. Finally, it was over. Grandma Helena hugged me, so tight she almost took my breath away. It's over, my love. It's finally over. We left the courthouse surrounded by reporters. Patricia gave a brief statement and dismissed them. We got into Grandma Helena's Blue Beetle and left. "Want to go home?" she asked. "I want to go to the beach." We went to Guara. We sat on the sand in our clothes, because neither of us had planned this. The sun was setting, tinting everything orange and pink. "You know what's funny?" I said. "I spent so much of my life wanting her to love me, wanting to be enough. And now I feel nothing. It's as if that part of me that suffered for her simply doesn't exist anymore." "It's because you healed," Grandma Helena said. "Not completely, wounds like that leave scars. But you healed enough to live. And that's all that matters. Grandma, thank you. For everything. For not giving up on me." She kissed my forehead. "Give up on you? Never. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Sophia. Since the day you were born. And I'll love you until my last day." We stayed there until the sun disappeared completely. When we got up, shaking sand from our clothes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The following months were about reconstruction. I passed the entrance exam for psychology at Unifesp. Grandma Helena cried with pride when the results came out. We took a photo with the enrollment confirmation and she put it in a frame in the living room. With the compensation money, I paid for psychological treatment. I needed to process everything that had happened. The therapist, Dr. Monica, helped me understand that my mother's neglect was never about me. It was about her choices, her failures, her demons. You weren't invisible, Dr. Monica said in one session. She refused to see. And that says everything about her and nothing about you. I started college. I made friends, people who didn't know my story, who knew me just as Sophia, the girl who lived with her grandmother and studied hard. It was liberating to be anonymous again. But there were those who knew. The story had gone so viral that it was impossible to be completely anonymous. Every now and then someone recognized me. Most were kind. They said my story had inspired them, that they had cut ties with toxic parents because of me. Once, a girl about 16 stopped me on the bus. She was crying. "Are you Sophia? From the mother case?" she asked, trembling. "I am. My mother does the same thing. Not as serious, but she ignores me. Acts like I don't exist. And I thought it was my fault. But I saw your story and thank you. Thank you for speaking up. For showing me it's not just me." I gave her my number. "If you need to talk, call me. And if you're in danger, call the police or Child Protective Services. No one deserves to feel invisible." She thanked me and left. Grandma Helena, who was with me, squeezed my hand. "See? I told you you'd help people." And I did. I started a project at college about family emotional neglect. It became a support group. Every week there were 10-15 people, some young, some older, who sat in a circle and shared their stories. Forgotten children. Invisible children. Children who were never enough. And I listened. Validated. Said it wasn't their fault. That they mattered. The group grew. It became a small NGO. Project Visible, we called it. Grandma Helena helped. She took care of the administrative part, raised donations, organized events. She had officially retired, but never stopped being an educator. Now it was just in a different area. 2 years passed. I was in my 3rd year of psychology. Grandma Helena turned 68. We had a simple party in the apartment. Some of her friends, some of mine, lots of cake and laughter. In the middle of the party, she pulled me into the bedroom. "I have something to give you." It was an old wooden box. Inside were photos. Me as a baby, me as a child, me as a teenager. All with my father. And a letter. "Your father wrote this shortly before he died. He asked me to give it to you when you were older. I think now is the right time." I opened the letter with trembling hands. It was my father's crooked handwriting. "My Sophia, if you're reading this, it's because I'm no longer there. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I can't see you grow up, become the incredible woman I know you'll be. I want you to know some things. First, you're the best thing your mother and I ever made. I look at you and see hope. I see the future. I see pure love. Second, if something goes wrong, if I'm not there and you need someone, look for your grandmother. Helena is the strongest woman I know. She'll protect you. She'll love you. You can trust her with your life. And third, most important, you deserve to be loved. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to take up space. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Don't let anyone make you believe you're not enough. You always were enough. Since the day you were born. I love you, my daughter. I always will. Dad." I cried so much that Grandma Helena had to hold me for several minutes until I could breathe properly again. But it wasn't sadness. It was relief. It was as if my father had given me permission from the past to be happy, to choose the family that chose me. 3 years after the accident, I received an email. It was from Isabella. She was 18 now. "Sophia, I know you probably don't want to talk to me. I understand. But I need to say some things. I asked to leave home as soon as I turned 18. I'm living with a friend, working, going to college at night. And doing therapy. Lots of therapy. My therapist made me see things I didn't want to see. How I was cruel to you. How I learned from Mom to treat you badly. How I laughed when you were dying. I have no excuse. I was 15, but I knew it was wrong. I knew and did it anyway because it was easier. Because if Mom hated you, me hating you too meant I was on the right side. But I wasn't. I was wrong. Very wrong. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I know what I did. That I carry this every day. And that if I could go back and change it, I would. You owe me nothing. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here. Isabella." I showed the email to Grandma Helena. What do you want to do? She asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to ignore it. But another part. She was a child, Grandma. A child being taught to be cruel by her own mother. It's not an excuse, but it's context. The decision is yours, my love. Whatever you choose, I support you. It took me 2 weeks to respond. Isabella, I received your email. Thank you for the honesty. I'm not going to say everything's okay, because it's not. What you did left marks. But I recognize that you were also a victim of a mother who taught us that love is conditional, that there are favorites, that some people matter more than others. I'm not ready to have a relationship with you. Maybe I never will be. But I hope you heal. That you break this cycle. That you be better than what we were taught. Good luck. Sophia. I never heard from her again. But I saw on social media years later that she graduated in social work. That she worked with children in vulnerable situations. I rooted for her from afar. My mother I never saw again. I heard through others that she moved to the interior of Minas Gerais. That she married again to an older man. That she never spoke publicly about the case again. I also rooted for her, in a strange and distant way. I hoped she would find peace. That she would learn to be better. But my story isn't about her. It's about Grandma Helena, who died at 76, sleeping on a Sunday afternoon. I was 27, freshly graduated, working at the NGO. I came home and found her on the sofa, the book still open on her lap, as if she had just dozed off. The funeral was huge. Students she had 50 years ago showed up. Parents of students. Neighbors. People from the support group. People whose lives she had touched in ways I didn't even know. And I spoke. I told everyone there who she had been to me. She wasn't just my grandmother. She was my mother, my best friend, my savior. She taught me that family is who stays. Who holds your hand when you're learning to walk again. Who doesn't give up, no matter how hard it gets. She taught me that I have value. That I deserve to take up space. That I am enough. And if today I help other people see themselves, value themselves, it's because she taught me first. Everything good that I am, I owe to her. We buried her next to my father. I placed flowers on both graves. White roses, which were her favorites. Thank you, Grandma, I whispered. For everything. For saving me. For loving me. For teaching me to live. And then I left, not to that big house in Santos where I was never happy, but to the apartment that had been hers and that she left me in her will. To the place where I learned what a real home was. Today I'm 32 years old. Project Visible serves hundreds of people. We launched a book, When Blood Isn't Enough, Building Family by Choice. I give talks at schools, hospitals, universities. And every time I speak, I tell my story. Not for revenge, that's in the past. But for healing. For liberation. For every child who feels invisible and needs to hear it's not their fault. I still visit the graves every week. I bring fresh flowers. I talk to my father about how proud he would be of me. I talk to Grandma Helena about the cases I'm working on, about the NGO, about life. And every time before I leave, I say the same thing. Thank you for choosing me. For teaching me that family isn't who gives you life. It's who stays when your life almost ends. It's who transforms pain into love, fear into courage, invisibility into strength. Because in the end, that's the only truth that matters. Not everyone who should love you will love you. Not every mother is a mother. Not all blood is family. But when you find who really sees you, who really stays, who really chooses you, every day in big and small choices, you hold on tight. You honor them. You give back. And you pass it forward. Because the greatest revenge against those who made you feel invisible isn't making them suffer. It's you living, shining, taking up space, being happy. It's you proving, every single day, that they were wrong about you. And I proved it. I keep proving it. And I'll prove it until my last day. For me. For my father. And especially for Grandma Helena, the woman who taught me that I was always enough, even when no one else could see. If this story touched you in any way, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories of overcoming injustice. Your comments and support make all the difference for other people who may be going through similar situations. Until the next story.